Hey, so if it sounds like the GoBots are having an orgy in the background, that's just my laundry machine. Sorry. Hey, so growing up, I always heard people say that Marvel beats DC on film and DC beats Marvel in animation. Now, as far as the movies go, your mileage may vary, but I think they're pretty evenly split, to be honest. I think there are some excellent Marvel movies, and I think that there are some really bad Marvel movies. But for the most part, I think the vast majority of them are just fine, I guess. And same with DC. I think there are some excellent DC movies, and then there's the absolute dog shit. But for the most part, they're just there. And you can debate which movies are excellent, you can debate which ones are dog shit, and you can debate which ones are just painfully mediocre all you want, and that is fine. Everyone is entitled to an opinion, so whatever. But part of that blanket statement that I've always taken issue with is people shitting on Marvel animation. Granted, it's a mindset that I can totally understand given the context of the 90s, because that's where I think a lot of this starts. Because currently, I'm going back and rewatching Spider-Man the Animated Series, and I started watching X-Men the Animated Series. This is actually my first time watching that show, and I have a lot of nostalgia for Spider-Man, but that show is rough. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to get through. And X-Men is very much in the same boat. I mean, I appreciate how they're trying to adapt the comics using the benefit of hindsight and making narrative and character connections that weren't in the comics but make sense, or trimming the fat of certain story arcs and character arcs. But I'm sorry, these things are rough. And I haven't had the heart to go back and watch Iron Man the Animated Series. That was my shit as a kid. It's one of the primary reasons that I'm an Iron Man fan today. But I have been told by many people that if I liked that show as a kid, I should just hold on to those memories and not go back to it, because I will hurt myself. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And as an excuse, people always bring up the censorship regulations and how that sabotaged the Marvel shows. But you know who else had to deal with those same regulations? Warner Brothers and the DC Animated Universe. And somehow, they made that shit work. And if you compare the 90s Marvel animated output to DC's, it's like night and day. And I'm saying this as someone who's in a very small minority here, because I like the DCAU, but I don't love the DCAU. Like, Season 1 of Batman the Animated Series is a banger. Every episode is a certified fresh cinematic experience. And Season 2 is the fucking cat's bananas by default of featuring 90% more Robin. Meanwhile, Superman the Animated Series, I like it. I don't love it. I don't hate it, like other Superman fans seem to hate it nowadays. But it's a fun Saturday morning pulp, and the way it sets up the Justice League in later seasons was a lot of fun. Batman Beyond is nothing short of a miracle. The pre-production for that show sounds like an absolute nightmare, but somehow it wound up becoming one of the greatest animated series of all time. And again, that's with the censorship regulations, that's with bizarre cokehead executives putting the animators and writers and voice actors in weird positions half of the time. So when you compare the 90s Marvel Animated Universe to the DC Animated Universe, it's not even a competition. This exemplifies the hydrogen bomb versus a coughing baby meme. But then we get to the 2000s, and this is where things start to change. DC is still putting out really good cartoons with Static Shock, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited, and even outside of the DCAU, they had The Batman, Teen Titans, Legion of Superheroes, Batman Brave and the Bold, Crypto the Superdog, Green Lantern the Animated Series, Young Justice, and these are all great shows. But if we're gonna turn this into a Marvel vs. DC condomless cockboxing match, then let the record show. This was when Marvel started fighting back. because everything from the early 2000s up through the early 2010s is just banger after banger after banger. And it all starts with X-Men Evolution. And to be honest, between this and the 90s X-Men cartoon, the only category where the latter comes out with a W is the intro. I mean, I love the X-Men Evolution intro, but come on, let's be real. The voice acting is less cheesy, the animation is far better, the show is written very well with character arcs going for multiple seasons in some cases. That said, it's a very distinct adaptation of the X-Men. It's not really adapting the comics or even the movies per se. It is taking the core concept of the X-Men and those characters and those relationships especially and doing its own thing with them. And it's just a great television show. And the X-Men cartoon that followed it was somehow even better. Wolverine in the X-Men is just an absolute dime with a bucket of fries on the side. This one is more so doing what it can to adapt the comics, and it's pulling very heavily from a lot of the more recent material with the Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison run, and it was all leading up to the Age of Apocalypse before it got canceled. In fact, I actually think it was one of the first casualties of the Disney-Fox legal shitfest that led to Marvel downplaying the X-Men, so that sucks. It also had Tom Kane as the voice of Magneto, and ever since, he's the voice I hear in my head whenever I read him in the comics.
Make no mistake, the humans will strike first, and when they do, we will be ready.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
We also got Fantastic Four: World's Greatest Heroes, quite possibly the best adaptation of the Fantastic Four that we've ever gotten. I mean, the bar's not that high, but still. Spectacular Spider-Man, again, probably the best adaptation of the character that we've ever gotten. It's not a one-for-one with the comics, 616 or Ultimate, but it's the perfect blend of both. And honestly, if it didn't get canceled, I'd be tempted to crown it as the single greatest adaptation of superhero comic books ever. But unfortunately, reality is often disappointing. Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes is probably the best Avengers anything, because it's a lot like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited in the sense that the show is so good, it'll trick you into thinking that the comics are too. Okay, that was a twofer. I feel like that might trigger both Avengers fans and Justice League fans equally, but come on.
Why you boring me? I'm right!
And even outside of ongoing animated shows, Marvel had a bunch of one-off animated movies that were really good too. The Hulk vs. movies are great. In fact, I'm still convinced that Hulk vs. Wolverine is responsible for like 90% of the Deadpool fandom. The Doctor Strange animated movie is, as far as I'm concerned, the second best Doctor Strange movie we have. Next Avengers was, quite honestly, better than it had any right to be. And just in general, the Marvel animated films were really good. I mean, the Iron Man one kind of sucked, but aside from that, they were pretty good. They didn't pump them out with the same volume as DC did with their animated movies, but to be honest, considering the law of averages, considering how, as the DC animated films went on and then turned into a crappy discount MCU, and then somehow rebooted itself into an even crappier discount MCU, Marvel might actually have a higher percentage of good animated films compared to DC. Granted, there was a dramatic dip in quality between the early 2010s and the early 2020s. The anime films and miniseries that came out in that time period that Marvel experimented with were really hit or miss. Most of them were misses. There was also that time period where every Marvel cartoon that came out felt like a hollow MCU brand synergy toy commercial that was written by AI, so I get trashing that stuff. But now, Marvel's out here with Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and I haven't actually sat down and binge watched it, but the episodes that I have seen are really good. And much like everyone else, I've been watching X-Men 97, and that's been amazing so far, which is a pleasant surprise considering the show that it's continuing. And if Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is half as good as X-Men 97, I think we're in for something really special. And I say all this to say that Marvel Animation has always been good. Well, okay, maybe not always good, but everything from 2000 up through 2012 has been good. Ignore the dark period between 2013 and 2022, and just look at what's coming out now. Marvel's had a solid track record in animation. So, I don't know. I've just always been put off by the whole DC is better at animation than Marvel. Marvel sucks at animation. And some of the praise for X-Men 97 feels backhanded, like, Marvel finally stepped up their game in animation. That's just bullshit. I'm sorry. It's untrue, and it's always bugged me. So I had to get that off my chest. So that's it. That's the video. If you got something to say it in the comments. If you don't have anything to say, comment anyway. Just say something random. If you like the video, hit the dislike button, actually. Yeah, I just want to see something. If you like this video, hit the dislike button. If you dislike the video, hit the like button. I want to see how that, I want to see what that looks like. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later, guys. Peace.
Charged up.